Interwoven in On the Edge by Nate Silver, The Art of Risk Taking, are 13 habits of highly successful risk takers. And I'm going to walk you through each and every one of them. Hi, everyone. I'm Jack Alwell. And if you've been liking my content, I would really appreciate it if you'd hit that subscribe button. Now, starting out at number one, this is not to say this is the most important attribute or habit of very highly successful risk takers, but this is number one on the list. Highly successful risk takers are cool under pressure. Now, it is hard to simulate top moments in one's career, such as like a World Cup final or a Super Bowl, but they don't try to be a hero. It's hard to change course when new information presents itself in new environments. And the best risk takers take into account that new information and pivot if they deem fit. But once again, they do not try to be a hero. They do their job, they do as they've practiced. Number two on the list of highly successful risk takers, they have courage. They are competitive. They have a bring it on attitude. And they go where they are rewarded. There's a good example in the book of the woman that was pivotal in the mRNA vaccine and how she grew up in Hungary. Now, this woman left communist Hungary for the USA because she thought she'd be rewarded and she wanted to work around people that also wanted to do great things. And they make the point that, oftentimes the private sector are more aligned with values and reward people that give to others. Number three on the list of highly successful risk takers, they have strategic empathy. They are good at putting themselves in their opponent's shoes. I talk a lot about this with people in terms of investing. When you're putting on some sort of trade, there's a person on the other side. It's often good to think about what could be motivating them to enter the other side of the trade, because on one hand, you think you're making the correct decision. They might be also making a good decision in their mind, and you might have different incentives, or you might be trying to achieve different things. So it's always good to have strategic empathy and think about what your opponent is doing. Number four on the list of highly successful risk takers, they are process oriented. They are not results oriented. I've talked a lot about this idea of resulting. Annie Duke brings this up in her book, Thinking in Bets, this idea of separating the decision from the result. If you drive through a red light, cars whizzing by, if you get to the other side unscathed, most would say that is not a good decision. But when you ask people what's the best decision they've made, oftentimes they point to a decision that had a favorable result. But highly successful risk takers are good at separating the decision from the result. You can play a hand in poker correctly and get unlucky on the river. That's just life. But life is skill and a little bit of luck. And it's knowing when you got lucky, when you made the correct decision and got unlucky. Number five on the list of highly successful risk takers, they take shots. They are comfortable with failure. And it made me think of the difference between being scared to fail and not liking to lose. A lot of people don't like to lose, but are still competitive. They're not afraid to lose. So they still put themselves in the arena. They have skin in the game. They're getting more feedback because they're getting practice by competing with others. And in this section, he makes an interesting point that America is different from many countries in the respect that people in the US often are trying to like 100x their money, whereas outside of America, a lot of people are interested in protecting their downside. So I thought that was interesting to think about. And I would say when I've gone to Europe and talked to Europeans, that does seem to be true. They're often more interested in maximizing the minimum they would experience. Number six on the habits of highly successful risk takers is they take a raise or fold attitude toward life. In his analysis in this book, On the Edge, Nate Silver breaks down why calling a lot of times, just staying in, that kind of staying in and perhaps being mediocre in his eyes, is the wrong strategy. You need to randomize more in such that you double down or either just quit. And he compares it a little bit to countries' responses to the COVID-19 pandemic. He viewed New Zealand as a raise type of approach, totally locking down, versus Sweden just folding, like not even bothering. Whereas the countries in the middle that were kind of half-assing measures didn't really have all that much success. And there's a thing in athletics, you want to leave the game before the game leaves you. Number 7 on habits of highly successful risk takers is they are prepared. They make good intuitive decisions because they're well trained, not because they wing it. And they make good intuitive decisions by practicing decision making. So in my mind, you have to keep practicing. It's like anything else. The more decisions you make and the more skin you have in the game, the better you will get at making decisions in real time when you have to use your intuition, and that can only be enhanced and harnessed through practicing. Number 8 on the habits of highly successful risk takers is they have selectively high attention to detail. And the quote from this section that I thought was perfect is the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. It's to block out the noise. It's to focus on what's important. And a lot of on this channel is this overarching view that they're going to print more money. And that is the thing that backs a lot of my decisions, at least. And a lot of the rest is really just noise. It really, when you break it down, they're going to print more money. And that is the main thing and what drives a lot of my investing decisions. And I think it would help you too to focus on the main thing. Number 9 on the list of habits of the highly successful risk takers, they are adaptable. They are good generalists and they take advantage of new opportunities and respond to new threats. So they're good at taking in new information, going with the flow, perhaps going into a blue ocean they might not have too much exposure to right now or experience, but they're good at seeing something and going with it. Number 10, highly successful risk takers are good estimators. They are very good working with incomplete information, because a lot of time edges that exist in the market, or whether it's sports betting or whatever it is, the edges don't exist for very long. So if you want to exploit some sort of abnormality or edge, you have to be able to work quickly and work with incomplete information. Does an edge exist because there's actually an edge there, or is there something that maybe you don't know? And making those types of decisions, and he gives some examples on, is there a certain injury in like sports betting that someone doesn't know about, or did something swing such that maybe they don't have information that they should, or they think some insider does have. Okay, number 11 on the list of habits of highly successful risk takers is they try to stand out. They don't try to fit in. It's important to find your own path, and you have to find what you can do. Don't focus on what you cannot do, but focus what you can do. Number 12 on the list of habits of highly successful risk takers is they are conscientiously contrarian. Now, this is the part that I'm still trying to wrap my mind around. He makes the distinction between being an independent thinker and a contrarian. Independent thinker, let's say both of us are going to get ice cream You get vanilla ice cream. I get strawberry ice cream. An independent thinker. So I'm getting strawberry because I like strawberry. But a contrarian is picking a different flavor just because you picked vanilla or you picked something. So these contrarian thinkers, it's often they're looking at what the masses are selecting or gravitating to, and then trying to find cracks that would make the odds on the other side good for them in some way. And they're looking for flaws in people's incentives rather than their intelligence. And I think that's an important part. I'm gonna just let you think on that for a while because that one is kind of a tough one to think about because I think most people would strive to be independent thinkers, whereas this is saying you need to be conscientiously contrarian. Number 13, the final habit of highly successful risk takers is they are not driven by money. It's just their way of life. They have to like the game. It's like a lot of athletes. I mean, they don't need the money per se once you get to a certain level, but they just love the game. And poker players, that a lot of those elite poker players don't need the money, but they just like playing the game, and it's their way of life. So hopefully you enjoyed the 13 habits of highly successful risk takers, and I would recommend going and reading Nate Silver's On the Edge, where you'll see the first half is on specifically gambling, and the second half is more general on risk. So hope you like this episode, and I'll see you on the next one. And if you like the content, please subscribe.